Let me ask you a question. And this question just may change the way you look at life. And that question is, what if rest was the point from the very beginning? What if rest was the point from the very beginning? Now, I know how most of us think about rest. I know how most of us think about rest. Rest is what you squeeze in after a long day of being on the grind. Rest is what you do when you finally checked off everything on your list to do. Rest is the vacation you can afford. Huh? Rest is the vacation you can afford after you already worked yourself to death. Good luck. But what if God never designed rest as a reward for your labor? What if God never designed rest as a reward for your labor? What if he designed it as the foundation of your life with him? I'll be honest with you. Sometimes my week feels like a sprint to the finish line. Have you ever been there, and I know some of you have, where your calendar is so full, even your rest feels like work? We collapse on the couch at night. And not because we chose to rest, but because rest was forced on us. But God's rest, it isn't collapse. God's rest is a gift. Pastor Kyle told us that this morning in our devotion. God's rest is a gift. God's rest is a rhythm. And God's rest is a way of being. Let's look at Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. And it says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were completed, all in their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So, on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day," watch this, "and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of the creating he had done." And the first thing we need to do in reading that scripture, we need to understand Sabbath rest. We need to understand Sabbath rest. Now, the word Sabbath literally means to cease. Now, listen to this. God didn't rest because he was tired. Psalms 21, in fact, says, "He who watches over Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps." So God doesn't get tired. God doesn't get weary. Watch this. He rested because the work was complete. And believe you me, if my God took 6 days, he was on cruise control. I'm like my father, because he could have spoken in quicker than now, sooner than then. I don't know how fast that is, but it sounds fast. Quicker than now, sooner than then, it would have happened. God rested on the seventh day. But this wasn't collapse. This was contentment. It's like when an artist does a painting and the artist pauses and puts the brush down. And then the artist steps back from the canvas and looks at it and says, Man, that's good. That's good. And this is the kind of rest God models for us. And I'll have you know that rest is rooted in trust. Rest that comes from knowing the work is finished. Another thing we need to understand the spiritual significance of rest. Now, here's something powerful. Watch this. I bet you none of us really realize this. But do you know that humanity's first day was a day of rest? Think about that. God created mankind on the sixth day, and the very next day, his first sunrise wasn't about digging. His first sunrise wasn't about building or producing. And watch this. It was all about being with God. And don't miss this. Adam's life didn't start with work. It started with rest. And that tells us something about the rhythm of the kingdom of God. And what it tells us is we don't we don't work for rest. Watch this. But we work from rest. We don't work for rest, but we work from rest. Let your minds wrap around that. We don't work for rest. We work from rest. You see, our culture, what it does is it flips that around. And you know what it does? It makes us glorify the hustle. We measure worth by productivity. Watch this. We live on caffeine and deadlines. But God says, no. Your starting point is with me. Your starting point is being in my presence. Watch this. Before you prove anything, before you produce anything, you belong, and you belong with me. Think about the way we start our weeks. In our culture, Monday is the first day. And from Monday to Friday, it's all about the grind. But the Jewish calendar, the week begins with Sabbath rest. Then work. We work from rest. And that's the exact opposite of how most of us live. You see, God's design is countercultural. And you don't earn rest, but you begin from it. You know what we need to do? We need to stop measuring our worth by productivity. We need to stop measuring our worth by productivity and start measuring it by presence with God. Another thing I want you to understand is creation's climax in holiness. Notice this, watch this. Out of all the days of creation, the only one that was called holy was the seventh. The rest were called good. But the seventh was called holy. Not the day he made the sun, not the day he made humanity, but the day he rested, the day he ceased was called holy. That means holiness, the first time it is applied to something, watch this, it's not applied to a place. Watch this, it's not applied to an object, but it's applied to time. You know, we're so quick to call places and things holy. But have you ever thought about your time being holy? God did. God referred to time as being holy. God, he built a rhythm into the world. Rest and work, stillness and motion, being and doing. And when we ignore that rhythm, our lives drift out of tune with God. Think of it like music. We have rest and music. And rest are symbols to show how long a silence should last in a piece of music or in a song. And thank you, Charlie. Thank you. And without rest, music just turns into noise. I almost said heavy metal, but I didn't. It turns into noise. Because the rest give the song its beauty. And if we don't make space for rest in our lives, we're not living a song. We're just making noise. And just like music needs rest, our lives need Sabbath. Without it, all we're doing is making noise. Think about all the times you hustled, just making noise. Think about all the times you were going through checking off the things on your to-do list. You were just making noise. Without rest, you're just making noise. The last thing I want us to understand is the purposeful process. I'm Baptist, so I use 2 P's. Yeah. The purposeful process. I want you to notice how God created. I want you to notice how God was in creation. He could have spoken the universe into existence in a single instant, but he didn't. Instead, he took his time. I already told you he had to be on cruise control. 6 days, step by step, separating, making formations, filling, and blessing. Watch this. God was never in a hurry. He could have spoken in an instant, but he took his time. He was never in a hurry. God wasn't rushing to meet a deadline. Oh, I got to get this done in 6 days. I need to hurry. Every move was intentional. Every step was full of purpose. And that same God invites us to live unhurried lives. Not careless, but intentional. Not lazy, but present. Not rushed, but rooted in him. And friends, if God isn't in a hurry, why do we think rushing is the only way to live? If God isn't in a hurry, why do we think rushing is the only way to live? There's a gospel connection here. And here it is. Here's the tension. That rest that God intended for us, it didn't last. Sin entered the world and disrupted everything. Watch this. And from that moment on, humanity has been restless. Humanity has been searching for meaning. Humanity has been chasing satisfaction. In fact, humanity has been grinding to prove ourselves. And into that restlessness, Jesus steps in and he says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Pastor Kyle talked about that this morning. He said that Jesus gives us the gift of rest, the practice. Church, Sabbath, it points us straight to Jesus. And on the cross, he said, "It is finished." And just as God rested because creation was complete, Jesus rested because our redemption was complete. Hebrews 4 reminds us there remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. And that rest isn't found in a day of the week. That rest is found in a person. Jesus himself is our Sabbath. Jesus is our rest. So there are some implications for us. And you might be asking, so what does this mean for us in real life? Well, first of all, it means we got to practice rest as resistance. In a world that says, keep grinding or you'll fall behind, choosing to rest is a declaration of faith. And when you choose to rest, you know what you're saying? Pastor Kyle told us this morning, God, you got this, not me. I already told you he never sleeps or slumber. Ain't no need in both of us staying up. God, you got this, not me. We need to practice rest as worship. Sabbath isn't just stopping. Sabbath isn't just stopping work, but it's turning toward God. It's not empty space, but it's sacred space. And lastly, we need to practice rest as restoration. When we honor God's rhythms, our souls are renewed. Our perspective is clear. Watch this, and our joy returns. Have you noticed how your phones constantly demand your attention? Notifications never stop. And while I said that, somebody got a Facebook notification in that moment. Notifications never stop. But Sabbath is like turning off the world's notifications. Turning off the world's notifications so you can hear God clearly again. It's not that nothing is happening, but it's that you've chosen to focus on what truly matters. Imagine a church that actually lives this out. A people whose worth isn't tied to their hustle, but to their God. A people who model to the world that our God is enough. So hear me clearly. I want you to hear me clearly this morning. Rest is not laziness. Hear me clearly this morning. Rest is not wasted time. And rest is not just taking a nap on the couch. Rest is worship. Rest is trust. And rest is saying, God, you are enough. From Genesis to Jesus, the message is the same. And that is, our starting point is rest. And we need to stop trying to earn, watch this, what Jesus has already finished. Rest in him. Live from that rest. Don't work to rest. Work from rest. Because that's God's design from the very beginning. So here's an invitation. Stop striving to earn what has already been finished. Jesus has done all the heavy lifting. Jesus has done the work. The cross and his resurrection have declared all is complete. So come to him. Rest in him. And live your life from that rest. Let's pray.